We gotta probably some banger stories coming up here if I had to guess.
Let's start off with a beauty.
Sure.
Just like we'll go right from one beauty to another. And this is according to oilprice.com. And it talked about how the UK is on the hook for quite a bit of money, quite a big bill, because they don't need the energy that was being produced by wind turbines in the UK. So as a result, they're going to be paying out about 1.3 billion pounds in 2024 to wind turbine operators for lost profits. And the problem is that they were generating electricity at a time when there was no demand for that electricity. So it was windy. They were able to, so like it wouldn't be like a time when you're using a lot of air conditioning because it's windy and stuff like shit like that. That's when they're generating it. There just wasn't a need for that electricity. But due to contractual obligations, there's some guarantees and so forth. The government still has to pay regardless if the energy was used or not. And so in order to avoid this problem in the future, it's been suggested that they have to sink about 40 billion pounds into expanding their grid so that the electricity generated can be directed to wherever it is needed. So instead of paying for programs like dealing with homeless or sick people or shit like that, they're paying for this kind of stuff. And if you ask me, this is absolutely brilliant. But the question I have is, like, if they have excess electricity, why not simply use that to mine Bitcoin? It just seems like a no-brainer to me. You have this excess electricity, and you can scale this shit up and down as required. It's not like you're forced to always mine Bitcoin at 100%. You have a little bit extra, I can mine Bitcoin. Maybe that could help pay for that 1.3 billion, or maybe over time it could more than pay for it. I look at this and I'm shaking my head on so many levels. But good for you, UK. Good for you. 1.3 billion you got to pay out.
I think the UK is just a incredible case study in how not to manage a country. Do you? Like, what else can you even say about the UK at this point that hasn't been said already? They can't get anything right. They can't get anything right. Like nothing they do. The two royal prince or whatever got fleeced by an e-girl who left them and moved to California or whatever. Yeah, what's his name? Someone in the chat can tell me. Who's the girl who married Meghan Markle? Married Prince Harry, maybe? And then the queen hated her, I guess. She's like a dumb e-girl. Actress loosely used. I think she was in Suits like 15 years ago. And like no matter what it is, whether it's the monarchy or the economy, immigration, energy, like you name it, they just don't get it right. They can't get it right. Well, not to mention that their soccer team fucking sucks too. Like they can't get anything right.
What did they do well? Like
nothing.
Terms,
sure, like, shit isn't food. How much you like bangers and mash every meal of the day? It's not dental care. What do they got Canada, right? It's not music. Drill rap fucking sucks. So what do they got right?
Uranium, we have coal, we have oil, we have natural gas, fresh water. We have a lot here in Canada. All this shit doesn't really apply. Maybe oil, maybe if they start drilling out there in the northern regions. Maybe, but I don't know. Like, what do they have to offer? And over 100 years ago, the sun never set on the empire.
Yeah.
A century later, a little over a century later, look at what type of mess it is. And why can't the same thing happen to something like the United States?
Things can unravel quickly, for sure. 100%, man. You know, it only takes a generation, and you are deep, deep shit. That's you know, it was just an academic discussion point up until I don't know when. 10 years ago, probably. When did Samuel Huntington write that End of Civilization book? That was probably in the late 90s. And that basically was the hypothesis for the book was basically that everyone was going to be a Western democracy and there'd be no more war, it'd just be free trade and parties all the time. Like he couldn't have been more wrong. And you can see over the last 30 years or so since the book was written, how fast that whole thing unraveled. Mostly I would argue in part to, or mostly I would say due to like religious fanaticism all over the world. But there's been other reasons too, including stuff like this. Like you couldn't get the easiest thing in the world, energy production, correct Instead, you abandon something that worked in favor of something that doesn't to please people who were never going to allow you to meet them halfway anyways. And now, you owe, what was the number? 1.73 billion, something like that.
1.3 billion pounds.
Yeah. So, 4 billion Canadian dollars.
Joey,
shekels.
this is just like
Throw the drop in the bucket. Keep working for the fiat though, guys. Keep fucking getting up at 6 a.m. for the paper money the government gives you. Keep doing it. No problem. They are giving it away for the dumbest shit in the universe. But you have to get up and work a 6 to 6 to get some. Have fun.
The Roman Empire done again. We have bread and circuses happening. The
circuses are getting worse, by the way. I've been spending a lot of time like with Netflix on 5 on the volume dial over the last month. There's not a single good show on TV. I don't know what people watch.
I don't know. I don't watch anything.
There's nothing good on television. Nothing. So I don't know what people are watching either. Circuses are subpar.
But there's other things. Trust me, the circuses, they are fucking there. I can guarantee you. It may not be Netflix, and they are keeping people distracted. And unfortunately, it's like they need this. They need this in order to wake up the next morning and just fight another 8 hours, 9 hours of their fucking shit.
Absolutely brutal.
And whatever. Let's talk about another acceleration moment that's taking place, and this one is going on in Japan. And so the Visa wing in Japan said they will be stopping credit card payments for adult content because they say it is necessary to protect the brand of Visa.
Love it.
And I'm not trying to justify spending money on those websites.
This is only in Japan, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it could be a specific section or a portion of it. I don't know, but I got it from Visa Japan wing. And so like, I'm not trying to justify spending money through Visa on this, but on these websites, but the fact you could shut somebody out from traditional finances on a service that they want, and we can say what they want about the service, but they're being shut out from this. Eventually they're going to seek alternatives out there and stuff like Bitcoin, right? Like when somebody wants to do something and it's within confines of the law and they can't because the banking services don't allow them or credit cards don't allow them for whatever reason, they'll find another way to do it. And look, Bitcoin is here. This thing fucking works. And it's something which today cannot be stopped. And I will argue it cannot be stopped in the future. It just ultimately will create more Bitcoiners in the end, in the long run. It's like they think they're doing something good for their customers, but in the reality, it's turning the tables. They're doing something bad for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like this kind of stuff, I can't see this in the long run playing out very well for them. It just creates more Bitcoiners in the end, and I'm happy for that. Let's do it. Shut people out. Fucking stop them from allowing to get anything. Tell them what they could spend their money on. That's what we want them to be told, so then they can figure out another way which they could spend their money. Let's make them Bitcoiners.
Do you think porn should be illegal?
I don't really care. I really don't give a fuck.
I'm not often, one for making something illegal, but porn is closest I get. So I kind of appreciate, especially from a culture like Japan's, that's really done quality work protecting itself from tons of external influence, tons of substandard cultural pressures from around the world. I think they've done a really bang up job with that.
It's so I do. Once you start doing it for one thing,
exactly. I know. Now this is not to say that's not a good argument. It is, but I think there are objectively some things that you are better off without as a society. Pornography might be one. There are others too.
A lot of us, so many things.
For
so
sure.
like I'm trying to say, once you start at one,
for sure,
somebody else
the benefits,
the
benefits of porn are like zero. I know the other common one is like, well, what are we gonna do? Ban alcohol? Nah, alcohol I think has a place because it brings people together, and you need a certain level of, serendipity in a society to keep things rolling, and alcohol helps with that. I don't know if drugs do or don't in terms of like their net positive, but I don't want to get too far afield here. I just think that there's something to be said about whether or not we should be banning this. Do you think this is like, it sounds like you already believe this, but I'll ask anyway. Sibling to the Silk Road story, maybe, right? Couldn't buy drugs locally with cash. People ended up having to buy Bitcoin and then going to Silk Road. You guys see the same thing with porno in Japan now? Next time you try and get some big anime memories there, you're gonna have a hard time doing it. You got to use Bitcoin to pay because Visa won't let you. Interesting theory, right?
Sounds like all it's doing though, it's to me from the lens that I'm looking at this from, it's opening up people's eyes to an alternative that can't be stopped.
Huh.
If I want to send my Bitcoin to any address, any valid address out there, there's no person or entity that could stop me from doing it. Once it's been broadcast, that's done. The network, you can't censor a transaction. You could go to miners and ask them. Eventually, there'll be one miner out there that is going to be a good actor and just mine the next transaction that I put out there. So, like, what I'm trying to get at is, this is a fiat. This is just truly fiat, and they think that they have total control over everything, and to a degree, they have a lot of control.
Totally. No, they do, 100%. Yeah,
and it's slowly getting. Every time they do this, they lose a little bit more control.
Put the lotion away, you sickos. That's the answer. What's next?
There's another beauty of a story. This is a latest move I saw that is trying to tackle the housing crisis in the United States. And I'm not sure if you saw this, but people are now starting to live in malls.
Oh, perfect.
Did you see this one?
I lived in a mall for like 3 years between 13 and 16.
But you were there during working hours. This is 24/7.
I was there after school. Yeah.
Well, still within, these people. So there are malls in the United States that have low vacancy in terms of tenants, right? People are doing online shopping.
High vacancy, a lot of room. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So what are they going to do? They repurpose this shit in empty space that will never be rented out or very difficult to rent it out. Now they just rent it out to a residential tenant. So they do up these units.
You're living in a Spirit Halloween
or whatever. And so you have the front glass.
Is this better or worse than when our government suggested you could live on top of a post office?
I forgot about that. And given the fact what's going on in Canada, the strike, maybe you can live below too these days. You know what? With respect to this,
okay.
They were interviewing some of the people that are living in there, and they say that there was a little bit of adjustment that was required, given that you have this glass in front, so you have to, close it when you want some privacy. And when the weather is shit and you don't want to go outside, you don't have to go outside. You just walk around the mall, so you're already, you're closer to some shop.
Fiat slave. Listen, don't ever put anything over the glass. I want to see what you're doing at all times. And if you ever need to take a walk, just do it on the track and make sure you buy something on the way. Make sure you're window shopping the whole time.
They had a camera crew out there and they were interviewing people. And when they were, just doing their filming, they filmed some guy in his pad and he was vacuuming. You can see him vacuuming. You just see him clearly through the glass doing his chores, keeping the place clean. But that's, this is it. This is like, it truly is like another. I love this story.
Jail. How is it not a jail? Like, we already have like luxury condos, aka fucking dorm rooms for adults. You're a loser if you think a condo is a good place to live. It's not your life is not meant to be boozing and fucking your neighbors. Okay. It's meant to be family formation and building for generations to come. You can't do it in a condo. You sure as shit can't do it in a fucking shopping mall, man. What are we talking about? Did they leave the display cases out so you put your clothes?
No.
If it's like a rundown old clothing store, you just put your stuff on display.
It's been totally renovated, and there's some perks. I mean, if they want to go to the Sunglass Hut, they want to go to Colonel's, they have to just walk just a few feet. It's right there. So there's a lot over there. I don't know. I see this and it's just, oh my God, this is just another fucking beauty of a story. So
can we go see this place? Road trip? Can we go?
Jesus Christ.
Where is it?
It's a few places. And you know what? I have to dig this up.
Maybe we gotta find out. We gotta get the name and contact info of someone who lives there, and we gotta get them on the show. And we gotta ask, like, what's it like living in the shopping mall jail?
Here's the story. So CBC, sorry. Yeah, so they're saying shit like Macy's and JCPenney's. This is in
Those are like
Colorado.
big department stores too. Holy.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they're just leaving. So this is one that they showed Bloomfield, Colorado being
Okay.
one, but there's several of them.
Isn't
that's being,
remind me. So if you live in Colorado, you can't live in an apartment building because it's been overrun by gangs, but you can move into a abandoned JC Penney. Do I have that right?
Well, here's another one. Paradise Valley Mall in Phoenix, Arizona.
I love this. This is
Lafayette.
how can anyone not just laugh at this? How is it possible?
That's why I brought it up. The Lafayette Square Mall in Indianapolis.
Vietnam. Really? Wow. Okay.
Let's see. Chicago, Jersey. Yeah, it's all over to say this. I'm just waiting for stuff to come up in Canada. We're doing the micro units, the trailers.
We got the micro units. We got the post office. They got the post office condo. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, let's talk about Canada. Let's go to a little bit north here. And I'm going to be really brief on this, but it looks like Donald Trump was trolling Justin Trudeau.
They would be met as liberators. They would be met as liberators if they annexed us.
And so, yeah, saying that, well, there's going to be a 25% tariff, it looks like, that may be imposed on Canada and Mexico. And the reason for that, I think, I could be wrong, something to do with the border. They wanted to try to shore up the border so things don't flow into the United States they didn't want to have flowing in there. Yes. And so with that 25% tariff, Justin Trudeau saying that, look, this is going to impact the economy negatively. And so Trump was trolling him, saying that, look, if this is going to impact you so bad, perhaps we could just take you over and make you the 51st state, I think it was, or 50th, I don't know what state number, and make you the governor. Like,
I love it.
Whatever. I have nothing to say. Like, it's simply trolling, but there's a reality. They're
okay. Can I just say something here? If we didn't have such an uptight comms branch at the Fed, like, why didn't we respond with a good AI meme when Trump tweeted out that AI meme of him looking over the mountains with a Canadian flag? We didn't. No one on Parliament Hill thought this would be a nice opportunity to tweet something back. Like, why don't we ever send out funny tweets like that? We should. Like, people like that kind of stuff. That's the age we are in now. You know, a little bit of banter between arguably the two friendliest nations on the planet is a good thing. And instead, we just take it on the chin. It sucks. I really thought that was a missed opportunity for us. But anyway, continue.
Well, what happens if they do that? Then they're getting into a meme war with the United States.
The meme wars are okay. Better than hot wars with Russia.
You don't want to get into meme war with Donald Trump.
Trump is the meme master. We could learn a thing or two from that guy's meme.
So maybe the best thing is just to stay out of it, take your punch, and then go from there, rather than just taking a bunch more in the future.
Is it fair to say that the thing that we should be thinking about for all this tariff talk and annex talk and 51st state talk and Trump talk and tough talk, you know, there's a time in every country's growth period. Arguably, we have already come out of this, but it seems, at least in some respects, we have not. Why is it that we can't be a country that exercises or exports or influences our next door neighbor economically or culturally in the way we used to? There was a time when Americans used to think Canada was one of the best places in the world to live, that it was better than the US. And now no one thinks that about us.
We're getting a number of refugees from the United States after the election, or at least
sure. Who? Ellen DeGeneres? I don't
threats.
Ellen DeGeneres. Jesus Christ! Like, how about some? Or where'd she go? She went to Europe, right? Her and her.
Yeah, and didn't
Porsche.
Was it her? What? Somebody went to UK, and when they got there, and it was flooded because they had pretty hard rain.
Until Maddow jumped ship, we haven't done enough. We have to keep going until Maddow jumps ship and is living in Toronto, and replaces Rosie Barton on the CBC. That's how we'll know it's a simulation when that happens.
How long does CBC have?
In its current form? I said this on Twitter the other day. CBC shouldn't be defunded. They should terminate every executive and probably most of the journalists and restart from the basically basement and build it back up. There is room for a state broadcaster in a country like Canada. That place is just rotten to the core at this point. It has to be, retrofitted and gutted.
Well, here's a question for you. What's going to last longer? What has a longer lifespan in this earth? Is it going to be this government, the Canadian government right now,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's going to last until the
The
longest
Liberal government?
October.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
October next year. That's the longest it could last. Or Jimmy
Yeah.
Carter.
The Liberal government will outlast Jimmy Carter. Did you see Jimmy Carter in a wheelchair on election night there, happy to vote for Kamala Harris? Like, man.
He's looking at the skies. He's really enjoying things. So, hey, that's why I'm curious. What do you think? So, you're betting on our government outlasting Jimmy.
I got the libs outlasting Jimmy. Yeah.
All right, there we go. I want to see if anybody else has a different idea. This is another beauty of a story, Joey. This mayor of a town called Emo.
Yes. What a story this is.
Again, they're just making more Bitcoiners here. Apparently, he's going to have his bank account garnished because he decided to not go ahead with certain things with Pride and the Pride group.
He doesn't have, regardless of how you feel, I'll say it. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Regardless of how you feel about the Pride thing, no township should be forced to fly the Pride flag. No one should be forced to do it. Number one. Okay. You shouldn't be forced to fly any flag. That's the first thing. Number two, from a execution and pragmatic standpoint, the town of Emo does not have an official flagpole on which to fly this flag, is the mayor's case. He gets fined and is told to pay some organization. It's not a government organization, as far as I can tell. Some organization $5,000 out of his own money because he doesn't want to do the flag, and then $10,000 or something out of the city's coffers because he doesn't want to do the flag. Then they garnish the guy's bank account, to get the money. How many single parents you think are having trouble getting alimony from their spouses who can't get wages garnished? Probably a bunch. How many tax refunds are late every year because the CRA can't get their shit together and send out the refunds on time? How many refunds
now
are wrong?
everything they're all late now.
Exactly.
There's no mail going
the
out.
idea that we are garnishing bank accounts of people over whether or not they fly the Pride flag. Like, if what's that meme, right? Who radicalized you? It's shit like this. It's shit like this. If the town doesn't want to do it, then they don't do it. And if you don't like it, then you move out of the town. That's all there is to it. Everyone wants democracy until it goes against them, and then they don't want it anymore. And you have to do what I say, regardless of whether or not I'm in the majority. Like, that's not how democracy works. You, as a citizen, as a taxpayer, have the power to influence policy in a couple of ways. The two big ones are where you pay your taxes and voting. And so if neither of those are to the standard that you want, you're free to vote against the mayor in the next election, or you're free to move out of the town. But you're not free to force the guy and garnish his bank account because he doesn't want to fly the flag. Sorry. That's just the way this should be. And anyone who disagrees with that, I think is probably too far gone to have the debate with, unfortunately. I will also note that I think this organization, I saw some other stuff about them today. I don't want to say it because I don't have the data, but they've had their hands in some other interesting stuff over the last 4 years or so. I'll just say that. And it might be worth it, if you're listening or watching, to go dig into what exactly they've supported and not supported over that time. You're not going to be surprised. I'll tell you that.
Another beauty of a story is that Toronto is looking at the option of limiting the number of Uber and Lyft drivers that are going to be operating within a city. And they're going to be limiting this to a total of 80,429. I didn't realize there was that many, but I guess, the city itself is 2.5 million, whatever the fuck it is. And this number, they say, can be exceeded beyond the 80,429 should those who operate a zero emissions and wheelchair accessible vehicle. So you got to go out there, buy one of these expensive electric cars, or one that has. Then you're able to pay off that car. Then you can pay off the car by fucking driving strangers around. But yeah, people are having difficult times paying their bills, making ends meet, so to speak. And one way they could do that, they figure, I'm going to drive Uber or Lyft or something like that. Just do this on the side, easy. I don't have to.
Who came up with this idea? Olivia?
I don't know who. It just says City of Toronto. That's all it says. So it's, when I see this, it's like, my God, I feel bad. Imagine you go out there and you're the
what is a day in the life? That day in the life of the Toronto, the Toronto liver now, the Toronto enjoyer. I saw TD Leaker put up this video of. So let's just picture it, okay? You live in Toronto.
I have to preface this. I live more than half my life there, and you know what? For a long period of time, I thought I would live nowhere else.
Yeah,
because Toronto was different than what it is today.
You came to your
very
senses.
Much different.
You came to your senses. If you live in Toronto, what's your life like? We talked about this before. You can't leave your condo. You live in a condo for sure. Number one, you can't leave your condo because there's like a drug addicted vagrant at the stairwell, that you can't get rid of. And the police won't come because they can't afford to come. They want to send you a social worker to have a chat with the guy instead. So you can't leave. When you do eventually gather up the balls to leave, because you'll starve to death if you don't, you try and get an Uber. You can't, because the mayor has decided that unless it's an Uber that's zero emissions, you can't drive it. By the way, is there any worse a job for a zero emissions car that needs a charge every 4 hours than a fucking Uber? Is there any worse job? Maybe like long haul trucking in a EV is the other one, but like you can't drive Uber. You can't. There's nowhere to fucking charge in downtown Toronto where all the cars are being used.
Look at it from a different point of view. If you're not doing this, if you're doing it on the evening, you finish work, you do have your regular day job. You're probably like, only have 5 hours or so of like usable energy for yourself before you go to bed. So it works out well in that situation. Now, if it's the weekend, it's different. But then in the weekend,
all your remaining hours.
I'm trying to. That's what it is, and this is what we come to. And this is what people like. The reality is, this is what people should be doing. They should be grinding away everything and stacking corn by doing it.
That you can't tell people they got to work 20 fucking hours a day to stack corn and pay for their EV. You can't. It's not feasible.
Fuck the EV. Just stack corn and drive your 25-year-old.
It's not feasible. Car. And like I laugh. Like, you're driving through, everything smells like weed. It's just nothing but pot shops and cash advance places. You got to drive through a couple of Palestinian protesters on the way. Like,
just a couple of homeless cats.
Just a fucking. Meanwhile, you turn on your phone and Olivia Chow's in her fucking underwear at the Taylor Swift concert.
I don't want to touch that.
It's like an episode of Black Mirror. Like, it's just completely insane down there. I think it's so funny. I wish everyone in Toronto and Mayor Chow nothing but the best. CBP wishes you nothing but the best. That's our Christmas card to Toronto. Nothing but the best in 2025.
Ontario is going to get some new tools available to them because the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, I almost said Rob Ford, Doug Ford, said that he's going to help these cities deal with homeless encampments.
Get them out.
And because he says you're taking over public spaces and it's creating some problems, making communities unsafe.
Sure.
And so basically giving these communities the ability to deal with them, clear them out, and to help people. The question I have is, what can you do with these people? I'm telling you, somebody that is fucking homeless, I'll say almost all of them, and I'm sorry to paint you all with the same brush. I want to say that you probably don't want to be there. Maybe a few do want to remain homeless. That's your choice. But the majority, this is not their fucking choice. If they hadn't the choice, they would have a roof over their head. They're there because of circumstances. Either they made some poor decisions, or decisions were made for them to put them in this situation. What the fuck are you gonna do with these people? Put them in prison? These are human beings that have fucking
Here's the big question. My dad always asks this question. I don't have a good answer for him because, we have some friends and family who are like, oh, we can't get rid of the homeless people. It's not fair. My dad always says the same thing. Where do they go in the winter? There's all these encampments around town here in Hamilton, especially.
Send them to malls.
I'll tell you, in the winter, the encampments disappear. So they go somewhere in the winter. And then in the summer, they're all back. So they're like inverse snowbirds, right? Like when the winter comes, they go inside and then they come back out when this, like, they obviously aren't all dying in the wintertime. They're going somewhere, whether it's to treatment, to shelters, to other accommodations. They're leaving the city to go somewhere else where there is accommodations, whatever. Not only is there shelter space, but they know how to get there. And
the shelter space is limited.
Well, it's limited, but it's not zero. And so the idea that we can't tell people that they have to go into shelters, I think, is wrong.
And they open up more shelter space when it's extremely cold, but there's not enough shelter space to accommodate all the homeless. And that number has been growing quite a bit.
You can't put them in the park. You can't put them in the park. And I tweeted this today. This woman who writes for the Kitchener whatever, I forget what. Oh, here we go. Someone just responded to me calling me a dreck. I don't know what a dreck is. But this woman, Luisa D'Amato, okay. Premier Ford says municipalities will be given power to dismantle, blah, blah, blah. People who are homeless are not the problem. They're evidence of the problem. Okay. No one's arguing with that. No one's arguing that people, don't want to be homeless. No one's arguing that people don't need help with drugs. The argument, okay, Luisa and others like you, is where should they be? I don't want them in my backyard, and I don't want them in the park near my house. Do you want them in your backyard or in the park near your house? I don't want them in the school parking lot where my kid attends grade 1.
This
you
is
want them
NIMBYism to the extreme? Nobody wants this.
Exactly. And so,
but they are here. It's a problem that has to be addressed. They can't just simply disappear.
I don't know what to do. Force them into treatment, force them into something, do whatever. But you can't, it's funny. The same people who say, well, we can't force people to treatment. We can't force, it's against their human rights, against this, that, the other. Some of these parks in Hamilton are so bad that people can't leave their homes at night. They can't take their kids to parks. We've talked about this before. You're never going to see parks in high property tax areas because those people will be on your ass like a fly on shit if they can't use the park that they're paying $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $12,000 a year in property tax to access. Dundas, here in Dundas, great example. You're never going to see tents in the driving park here. That said, the people who can't, muster the activist wing of their neighborhood to get rid of tents are going to be the ones who have tents in the neighborhood. And the neighborhoods are going to get worse and worse. The tents are going to accumulate there. And then someone like Luisa D'Amato, who doesn't live in one of these areas, almost guaranteed. I don't know this woman, but I guarantee she doesn't live there. They're saying, well, we can't get rid of the tents. It's not fair. There isn't necessarily a fair outcome here, everybody. There's not. But we know which one is more correct than the other. And it's not letting tent encampments and people who need help run rampant and wild in every community in which they choose. That's not the answer. If that's part of your plan, you have to go as a politician. If you don't understand why that's not allowed, you're not going to be someone who fits in with polite society. You should be laughed at. That's all there is to it. It's a difficult thing. Province should put up more supports, build more tiny homes, do whatever. But sanctioning parks.
No homeless here, please.
Yeah, sure. That'll work.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. It's only a matter of time until one of these guys, there's guys like flopped over near where I play football. I was driving home Saturday night and there's like a guy slumped over at a stoplight. He was, I guess, panhandling earlier, but had caught enough money for a buzz and was, I think, like dangerously close to getting hit by a car. And like that story is eventually going to happen. And what are people going to say? These bleeding heart types are going to say, oh, this could have been avoided if only Doug Ford had done something about homeless shelters. But like, you can't, the thing is, like, for someone like this, Luisa, to talk about symptoms of the problem, like, it's kind of fucking stupid because the problem isn't, the problem is that people can't and refuse to get support for their drug problems and their addiction problems, right? And she notes that she thinks some people in encampments are addicted to drugs. I would argue it's a very high number, like above 90%. And the problem is that we want to help these people, but then we talk about, well, we need to build more supports. We put them in these tiny shack homes, like we've seen, in Hamilton, they're putting some up, probably some other places too, Toronto, you mentioned. But then when they go there, they just get left to their own devices. Well, do you think the guy who's addicted to fentanyl in the tent is going to somehow find God when he gets into the aluminum sheeting, protective shell of a tiny trailer? No. You need to force that guy into sobriety somehow. And if you don't do that, you're going to keep having the same problems. Well, we can't do that. Okay, well then don't talk to me about symptoms and results because you don't get it, or you don't want to get it, or it's not politically popular for you to say it. But you're fucking stupid. You're stupid. You either are intentionally leaving that part out and don't get it, or you're stupid. But in either case, you can't be part of the discussion because you're not going to contribute to a positive outcome. Period. End of story.
there's another good story that Canada is now going to start taking guns, requesting guns.
I
I'm not sure
love
which
this.
way.
Isn't I have never seen a honker like this on this show. We've had a lot of honkers. This is a absolute banger of a story. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The video
So
clip, the story, it's all great stuff.
So they have outlined. There's already a bunch of type of guns. I'm not gun savvy, so I can't really speak with confidence here. But there's already a bunch of guns that are already illegal. You can't have in Canada, and so that list has been expanded.
Yeah.
And so people that are on the expanded list, they can, I guess, give up their guns to the Canadian government. What's going to happen? They're not destroying it. They're not going to sell it and try to pay off the debt. They're going to donate it to Ukraine and help with the war efforts over there. But from what I gather is some of the weapons on the list, they're not even worthy enough to shoot very small animals. They're very underpowered, weak. And so you're not going to take this to a war and try to fight somebody. But you know what? What the fuck do I know? I'm not fighting a war. Yeah, it seems, and we know somebody, and I'm just going to say it really quick, no names, of course. The irony of all this, though, is somebody ordered a gun before this announcement came out. The announcement came out. He's still waiting it to get shipped to him because it's stuck.
The gun is banned. The gun is banned. He buys the gun.
Now it's banned.
The gun gets
bought
banned.
the gun before the ban.
Yeah,
he bought the gun.
The gun gets banned after he buys it. The government wants him to give it to the Ukraine, but he can't.
And he can't get it because it's stuck because of Canada Post. There's a strike, and he can't. So this guy's still waiting for it to get delivered, and it would have been delivered if there was no strike. But it just, I love that. That guy, I like that. I had a good.
I must have told 20 people that story, and everyone just fucking loved it. It's just so great. The only one that had it. It's so great. I think it's so funny, man, to watch how this is just unfolding. The video of who's the guy who made the announcement? He's talking about the gun grab. We're gonna support
Bill Blair.
Yeah, we're gonna support the fight for democracy in Ukraine. Oh man, wait till you hear about the kind of guns you're confiscating. I don't think he's gonna be much help at all. Like, it's such an obvious tell that no one at that level has thought about what war or training for war looks like at all. Like the need for standardized training, standardized ammo, warehouses of replacement parts, replacement weapons, replacement bullets, like the war machine necessary to fight a land war in 2024 is almost unfathomably huge. And we have a guy talking about grabbing guns off of Canadians that barely work and giving them to Ukraine. Unbelievable mask off moment. Zero knowledge of what a war actually looks like.
He was the police chief for Toronto.
Amazing.
A time ago.
Amazing. I forgot he was the police chief. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. Just complete disregard, misunderstanding.
I have to just say I missed one story. It was a notable international story. I want to bring it up before we sign up.
Let's do it.
Sign off because it's the governor of New York. Her name is Kathy Hochul. Hochul,
yeah.
Hochul, yeah. Okay. So anyways, she's now proposing that there's going to be $3 billion that's going to be given to New Yorkers, one-time payment. 8.6 million people will be getting this. Each will get $300. This is according to Bloomberg. So, yeah, here you go. More money from the sky. Where does it come from? Who cares? As long as it lands in my lap. $300. So, yeah, if they're going to do this in the state of New York, this might catch on. Why won't New Jersey do it? Why won't Ohio do it? Why won't and it just spread from there? Everybody do it.
Money. You think Eric Adams is going to get it? Is he going to get $300 too, or is he on the naughty list?
Is he going to buy Bitcoin? Like, is he like?
He was talking about it again the other day,
but he didn't talk about it forever.
I know.
He stopped talking about it.
I want Polyev to talk about it again. I want all these guys who went into hiding when the price dropped to come back out guns blazing. Show me your wallet address. What have you been doing for the last 2 years?
Polyev, he is not going to talk about it until, at the very least,
the debates.
After the election is concluded. And
wow.
Even then, he may not even talk about it. To me, it seems like he's looking at this.
His base is Bitcoiner friendly, though.
I don't think I don't think it really matters.
Huh.
He's gonna win.
Too much to risk.
So as long, why bring up something which could potentially derail his campaign? Boomer said a long time ago, I can't remember when, but he said Poilievre's biggest problem may be that he peaked too early. He's still at that peak, but if he can't maintain his peak for the next 10, 11 months, who knows what happens?
He doesn't even have to do anything though. Like
that's correct.
The fall, the economic forecast, if that comes out, you know, and we'll talk about that. I'm sure we'll probably go line by line. We should bring on, like, maybe I'll talk to Rich and see if him and Keith Dicker want to come on and do the CBP ice cap economic forecast line by line review. I mean, like that, you don't have to do anything if you're on the conservative team, because the other side is just imploding at rates previously thought to be physically unachievable, chemically impossible rates of reaction happening on the left. And I mean, the non-confidence votes are hilarious. The Maserati Marxist comments I thought were hilarious. They just start digging their own grave. And if not for the rotten to the core Canadian media establishment, like literally everybody not named Vashi Kapelos is just so in bed with the party. If that wasn't the case, this would be just wall-to-wall coverage of how much of a disaster this has been. But instead, it's the opposite. You got guys like Andrew Coyne online, who certainly has never squatted 225, talking about how Poilievre and Trump are the same. Like to quote QTR, the left has run out of ideas and they've run out of finesse. And everyone can see it except them. And that's why they're losing elections all over the world and will continue to do so.
It's a pendulum. It goes always one way or another. It's like the coach in insert sport. They only have a certain period of time in which they're effective, and then they're no longer, and then you have to jettison the coach and then bring in somebody new. And this happens. It's the same thing in politics. You almost become numb to what they say. Let's be honest. What can somebody like Trudeau, or
he's going to run again? He's got his foreign minister getting glow up articles in the New Yorker or whatever fucking magazine that was. Like, God bless Mel Joly. No one thinks she's fit to lead the country. Certainly not our neighbors. Certainly not the people in her own party, and certainly not most Canadians, according to polls. Like, I'm not just saying that. You look at the
it
polls,
doesn't matter.
And so, like, I just think like these guys don't. There's no one in the house that can guide them out of the burning building at the moment.
Well, what can they do? They've been in power for
they can't do anything.
9 years now.
They can't do anything.
So they've had majority for one term, minority for 2 terms, and in one of those they had a pseudo majority, which is kind of the one I have right now.
Yeah.
So what sort of new ideas could they bring to the table that they haven't yet executed? Any idea that they would have executed would have been done immediately after.
They can't. No, they can't. They can't. They're going to give away money. They're going to try and put quicksand all over the incoming administration for sure. Same thing you're seeing in the States now, right? That's the strategy. And you know,
and so that applies to anything. Harper had that same problem after being in there for 9 years.
Yeah.
What can he do?
Who's
that's going to galvanize?
Martin? That was Martin.
It was Martin. And so, what could the Liberals have done? People were tired of the Liberals at that time, and they were tired of Conservatives after 9 years of them. And this is just cyclical. And you can't run the same party forever. Eventually, they have to topple in the next party. There's only 2 that ever govern in Canada. Only 2.
Yeah.
So if it's not one, it's going to be the other.
Do you think that was actually Jagmeet Singh's Maserati?
No. There's no fucking way he owns a Maserati maybe in his hometown of Burnaby, but in Ottawa, there's no fucking way. The MPs, from what I gather, they don't own a car in Ottawa. They own it in a riding, but not in Ottawa. So that was probably a rental or something. There's no fucking way that was his. He's got a BMW, from what I gather, too.
Does he?
Yeah, so he has at least in his home, that he has a BMW. They said.
Paulie's saying in the chat that Maserati's 40 to 50K, not as crazy as you think. I don't know anything about cars.
He doesn't.
So, I'm not.
He doesn't own it. There's no way. He's being chauffeured around.
Do Maseratis really only cost 40,000? That doesn't seem right.
That seems really low for a Maserati, but
Let's see.
I mean, you're buying a Civic
Maserati.
now for like 35K. What the fuck? 10 more K for maybe
We bought a CRV. I won't tell you how much. No, this Maserati. Some of these Maseratis start at 136. There's no way that one was $50,000. I don't know.
So you're saying that Maserati is a 40 to 50K vehicle. But which one is that one? Is that one like
I have no idea. I gotta go. God bless. Good night, everyone. Len will be back on Wednesday with an interview. And thanks.
And
again
we're
for
not
the
doing
support.
anything for Christmas Day or New Year's Day. There's gonna be nothing released. Just one episode for the Monday for each of those 2 weeks.
Yes,
just
that's it.
Laying it out there.
Don't get greedy. Till next time, everyone. Take care of yourselves.
Don't be a cock.